What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for a Tottenham update regarding the manager's situation at Tottenham Hotspur. A couple of journalists talking about Igor Tudor this morning. Graham Bailey saying that Igor Tudor is expected to leave Tottenham by mutual consent. Tudor himself is ready to step away following the recent death of his father, Mario, and it is believed that both parties have now aligned on a mutual parting of the ways. And Peter O'Rourke says that Igor Tudor is set to leave Tottenham in the next 24 to 48 hours. Obviously, not the most reliable journalist at this moment in time, but maybe some say there is no smoke without fire.
Yeah, it feels weird to be speculating about his job at the moment. Obviously, it's a very tough time for him, and our thoughts and our prayers go out to Igor Tudor and what must be a very, very difficult time. But I think it does make sense, this whole the whole timeline of events. Obviously, we know he was under pressure before going into the Forest game. Even before the Liverpool game, there was a lot of talk about his job security. The importance of that Forest game and the manner of our defeat, I think, would have definitely sent alarm bells around the club.
Yeah.
And I think, given as well the circumstances, I think a mutual parting of the ways is probably best for everyone at this point. What we do after that, obviously we'll discuss that in a minute, but it's kind of the fact that he's only been here for, 6 league games, 8 games in total. And how, in terms of a time period, when did he actually get appointed? What was it, Feb? What were we in, March now? So was it early Feb? So it's one of the shortest managerial tenures potentially. Look, we don't know for sure. As you say, there hasn't been any reliable confirmation about him actually leaving his job. There's just been a lot of speculation. But I do kind of get the feeling it's 3 weeks now till the next game. There's a lot of time now to find a new manager and get someone in place for the final stretch of the season. I always felt like he'll get that Forest game, and if he hasn't got a win until then, they'll probably make the change. Given that, I think given that there's a long stretch of time now, I think it's good. So I think it will happen. I think the noise, for me, I think there is no smoke without fire in this situation. I think it's probably just best for everyone. And look, I feel bad for Igor. And especially right now for him, it's obviously very, very difficult. But at the end of the day, we need to stay up, and we need to give ourselves the best opportunity. And if we don't think Igor's made the desired impact, and we think someone else can do better, we've got to make the change. But at the end of the day, whoever coming in has got 7 games. That's not a lot of time.
That's not a lot of time.
Not a lot of time at all. And
no.
They need to hit the ground running from game 1. They can't take 2 or 3 games to bed in.
That's what the expectation was with Igor coming in. We needed him to hit the ground from game 1.
Yeah, but how realistic was that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, we've seen managers in the past come in and get an initial manager bounce, but I guess the issues at Tottenham are so, severe and so big that it's hard for a manager to come in and do that straight away. Igor Tudor has a track record of doing that, but wasn't able to do it at Spurs. I was saying after the Crystal Palace game that he should probably have gone after that game. We thought maybe he'd be turning a corner after the Liverpool and Atletico Madrid game. That didn't seem to happen. We saw what happened on the weekend against Nottingham Forest, and however hard the circumstances is, I think it's probably right for this decision to come. And he probably, I don't want to speculate about his mental state or anything like that, but a mutual termination of the contract probably suggests that he probably wants to spend a bit of time with his family right now, and maybe he's not in the right headspace to even carry on with the job. So but just from a sporting merit, I do think it's the right decision to part ways right now, and we need to find someone that can put us on the right path. And who that may be, I don't know.
At the end of the day, as I've said, we said it when Frank got sacked, and now I'm saying it again. It's too late to, I think, changing it and expecting like an immediate uptick from anyone. Yes, it might happen, but it's like pot luck. It's like playing the lottery or playing roulette at this point in terms of who can come in and maybe who can land on the number.
That's all we can do right now.
That's all we can hope. Yeah,
that's all we can do right now. That is the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
So I think the only option for Spurs in terms of hoping for survival is rolling that dice and is gambling with the situation, because I think if we stay on the same path, that we're on right now, I think that is just sleepwalking to relegation. So I think the only option Spurs have right now is to roll that dice and is to gamble with the situation.
I hear that as well. Look, and I also think changing the manager mid-season is also a lot of the time a fool's errand. And I understand we were calling for Frank's head, but again, we left that way too late. We left the manager to come in 12 games to save us, and now 6 of those have gone, or 5 of those, yes, 12 games, yeah. So 6 of those have gone, and now we've got 7 left, and it's not often actually, like when you look at the statistics and the data, it's actually not that often that managers come in mid-season, or not as often as you think, and there's an immediate upturn and turn things around, unless they're given enough time. Usually when they come in this late in the season, there's not enough time to turn things around. That's usually the trend. And we're not going to do it again for a second time. So I'm not saying that I think keeping Tudor is the right option. I'm just saying expecting anyone to come in with 7 games and turn the ship around in that short amount of time is pot luck, essentially. That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah. I guess look, the reality is that the teams that we're going up against, all of them have changed managers mid-season. West Ham have, obviously, he didn't get the initial bounce and he's had time, and now he has somewhat turned it around. Vitor Pereira didn't get the initial bounce, and obviously he's just got his first win in the most pivotal game of them all.
I think those are both examples for me of what I'm saying.
Yeah, so maybe, so what you're saying is the best option is to stick with Tudor then?
No, I'm not saying that's the best option. I'm just saying, I'm kind of saying we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying we've really screwed up this situation. And yeah, maybe we'll change him and maybe we will get the immediate turnaround, but it's not going to be because of good decision making at this point.
I think
it'll be because we get lucky. But at this point, I think, I don't know, unless we'll talk about the new next manager in a minute, but I don't know what we do. I don't think getting Harry Redknapp in is going to save us. I really don't.
I'm just not sure as well. Like, I think that there is a manager out there that we can hire right now that can just get us those couple of wins that we need to stay up.
Might be more than a couple.
I don't know, man. I'm looking at these other teams and they're not showing the ability to put number of wins on the table. They're not. So I do think it will just be that couple of wins. And, Leeds are getting dropped in it now. Leeds aren't winning regularly. They're barely winning at all. So Leeds have got, a lot of teams down there. West Ham are playing Leeds. Leeds are playing us. A lot of these teams are playing each other.
36 is enough to stay up.
A couple of wins with a couple of draws in there. Yeah, I don't think it. I think that'll be enough.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Because what? West Ham are on
29.
What, you really think they're going to win 3-4 games from now to the end of the season? I don't think so.
I don't think it's impossible.
It's not impossible, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I could see them getting 9 points.
Look, we'll have to wait and see, but we just need to put ourselves in the best opportunity to be able to stay up, and I do think that is moving on.
Look, at the end of the day, if you're going to make the change, you have to make it now. We had
to make it weeks ago.
No, but now you've got a 3-week break. Before it was games coming thick and fast. If you're going to install a manager and then take a game 2 days later, it was always going to be on to nothing. Now you've got to bring in someone, like we did with Tudor. We brought him in there was a decent break before the North London derby, wasn't it? And I think it was FA Cup weekend. Now you've got a 3-week break. Now's the time to change it and get someone in and give him a little bit of time. Maybe with some of the players who've stayed back, and obviously we're going to have FA Cup weekend when everyone's back from the internationals. So now's the time to change it and give anyone who's going to come in just a little bit of time with that team before the game against Sunderland, before we come back.
I just feel like this board is just shown this season they just react way too late to situations. First with Frank, now with Tudor, even though I know you're saying it's the right time to do it, but I think it was the right time after that Crystal Palace game, because after that Crystal Palace game, if you're not beating Palace at home, or if you're not showing competency against Palace at home, then I don't think there's much hope. And then he's shown it again against Nottingham Forest like 2 weeks later.
Look, at the end of the day, I think if you're going to appoint a new manager, even if it's an interim, you've got to give it a little bit of time. And we've obviously, I think at the moment it hasn't worked. And albeit there was a little bit of hope after Liverpool and Atletico, you're thinking, okay, has he turned it around? Obviously, Forest, we completely fell flat on our faces. But for me, there's no point hiring any manager and then not giving it a little bit of time and then just chucking him away after a couple of defeats. That's no way to run a football club. But this is what the management is like. And I understand what you're saying. You need.
It's no way to run a football club, but this is the situation that we're in. You know, you have to react to the situation that you're in, and you bring in a manager to get an initial bounce, to get that new manager bounce in, to get a couple of wins quickly again in the fixtures that we had, and he doesn't do it, then he's got to go.
I disagree. I think you have to give something time. But look, I think now's the time to change it. I agree. I think it was fair to give him until this point, but I think now's the time to change it.
Yeah, look, I guess we can agree to disagree, but I felt that we've seen enough after the Palace game, because it was still, I know it wasn't much. It was like 4 or 5 games or something up until that point, but it was 4 or 5 embarrassments, really. And if you're not going to get that little bounce until that point, then again, we've seen what's happened since then. We've seen, the no ability to play under pressure. Only the games that we had no pressure on, we performed in.
Yeah, but that's not a manager problem, is it? Not a manager. That's not cause of Tudor, is it?
But managers need to come in and install that. They need to install that. And, yeah, they have to. That's the job. That is the job.
It might not be possible.
It might not be possible, but that is the job, and someone has to be able to do that. Otherwise, we're going down.
I understand. I'm just saying I think it was fair to give him a little bit of time to see if he can do something. Obviously, it turned out he couldn't. But I don't think... Again, I think we're asking for the impossible.
But what you're saying is it's only 2 league games since then.
Since what?
Since that Palace game.
Yeah.
So...
And now's the time because we've got a 3-week break.
Yeah. All right. But in terms of more managers that have been linked to the job, Tom Allnut did a article with the Times saying that discussions have been held over Roberto De Zerbi taking over in the summer, as well as immediately, with one proposal including a release clause in his contract for the account of relegation. If a permanent appointment proves to be out of reach, another option has been discussed is to appoint a proven active coach on an interim basis with a fan favourite assistant who has an affiliation to Tottenham. Peter O'Rourke saying De Zerbi is a top target to come in if he can be convinced to take the job rather than the end of the season. However, Fabrizio Romano says that Roberto De Zerbi has always been a main candidate for the Tottenham job in the summer. If Spurs stay in the Premier League, top target is always reported since he left Marseille, with Pochettino another name on the short list. De Zerbi and Spurs currently only a topic for June. Yeah, kind of conflicting reports there from Romano and Tom Allnut, whether it be June or now. I mean...
Look, I think when it comes to the Allnut report, we have heard that we went for him now and that he wasn't interested. So whether he's just... Because what he said is, there've been discussions about it. I mean, that's technically true. Doesn't mean it happened right now, does it? So sometimes these reporters can twist the things in terms of the things they say. I've got a feeling maybe Tom Allnut is doing that. I mean, he's kind of saying there's internal discussion. He said, there has been discussions held about him being permanent now, which is true, but we heard that a few weeks ago and he wasn't interested. So whether there's new discussions, and also these are internal, these aren't with De Zerbi as well. So I don't think there's anything new there, to be honest, when it comes to that Allnut report. And then the other journalist off the back of that is saying it's definitely till the summer. So... It's already definitely in the summer. So for me, I'm not getting too excited about the prospect of Zerbi. I would try my best and my hardest to get him in right now if I could, because we're in a dire situation and we need something drastic, and maybe Zerbi is that guy to shake things up and get these players playing. So I would move heaven and earth to try and get him in if I was the hierarchy, because that's how dire the situation is. Even if it means offering him a permanent deal and offering him, next season, which I think he would only take the job under those circumstances. But I'm just not convinced De Zerbi wants to jump in to the Lions' den right now at Tottenham. I'm not convinced. I think he's better off waiting until the summer instead of. I'd never think making decisions in times of crisis like this is good for him or for us. Like, we're desperate, so we're going for him, and like him joining a desperate club, is that a good situation for him? It might be a good payday if it ends, him getting sacked or whatever. But would it be good for his CV if he comes in it's a complete mess, which is likely to be, rather than going into a settled team, a settled club with a clear plan and direction, like with him right at the centre of it? Like, that's not the situation he's coming into Tottenham. So if I was him, I wouldn't touch us. But if I'm Tottenham, I'm going to try and move heaven and earth to try and get him in.
Yeah. I think managers back themselves, don't they? When they see a situation like this, to put Tottenham on the right path. You know, we've seen it with many managers before. Obviously, none in as dire straits as we are right now. But with Roberto De Zerbi, if he could take the job right now with that relegation release clause, I do feel like if a manager comes in right now to Tottenham and does see us relegated, I don't think that affects their CV too much. I don't think prospected other clubs look at that being like, oh, well, he relegated Tottenham, we don't want to touch him with a barge pole. I think clubs will understand the situation Spurs have been in this season, and I don't think it's going to hamper him too much. However, I don't think he takes it. I don't think he looks at the situation being like, that's what I want to go. But I do think that is the situation we need. We need a manager to come in now. That is the best case scenario. A manager to come in now, a permanent manager, because players will look at that and being like, all right, this is the future of this football club. We need to fight tooth, and if they want to stay at the club, you know, they're going to be fighting for this manager and to be in his future plans. But I don't know, man. I don't think this is going to happen by any stretch of the imagination. I can't see De Zerbi taking this job right at this moment in time. Maybe in the summer, but not now. But in terms of what he's saying here, to appoint a proven active coach on an interim basis with a fan favourite as assistant, I mean, can you get more broad than that? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
No idea. An active... I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know who they're referring to. You know, we all want an active coach who has a proven track record, of course. I'm sure they wanted that before Tudor. I'm sure they've been looking at that. But who is this guy? Who is this mythical figure who's going to come in and save the day with an active coach?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because the people that have been linked to the job, Tim Sherwood, he's not an active coach. Harry Redknapp, he's not an active coach.
I mean, have they even been linked because they're actually linked, or is it just fan talking?
I don't know. They've both put their hat in the rings, haven't
Yeah.
they? Edin Terzic, he could be an active coach. Adi Hutter, whatever his name, Adi Hutter, he could be an active coach. But Sean Dyche, he can be an active coach. But I mean, the names are few and far between. Who else?
Could be these guys, I guess. I don't know. And also, like, the idea of just hiring a legend just because they're a legend. Like, are they a good coach? That should be the first and foremost. But
yeah,
that's just how I think we're looking at it. I think there is a part of me that's like, who in the dressing room really cares about this club? And having someone, a voice in there who does, would be beneficial in some capacity. But just hiring someone just because they're a legend or that they're a former fan favourite is no way to hire someone. No, it shouldn't be a criteria to hire someone as a coach because they're a fan favourite. They should be first and foremost a very good coach. That should be the main thing. And then if they're a fan favourite as well, that's great.
Yeah, but we are in this situation with 7 games to go. There's not many options available. And it looks as though Tudor's going to lose his job. So what direction do we go in?
This is my point. I don't know. I got no idea what we're going to do. We've put ourselves in a real bind. It's difficult to look for solutions and think. And in terms of logical solutions, which you think, okay, we should be doing this and this should save us. I don't see too many things. We just got to take punts at this moment because that's the position we've put ourselves in. Just got to take punts.
Yeah, and that's one of the punts that's been talked about. Just a Spurs legend that can come in, that knows the club. Like that. Right, that's about it.
I understand that. I'm just saying it's no real way to be hiring coaches. I understand it. I'm just saying it's not exactly like a thing we should be doing, but maybe we don't need to be doing the logical thing right now.
That's it. Like, you know, keep saying there's no real way to run a club, no real way to do this, no real way to do that, but we're in the midst of a relegation battle. This is the worst Spurs team we've seen. This is the worst run of form that they've been in our history. This is no normal situation, is it? This is not a normal situation, and we need to get out of it somehow, and nobody knows the real answers.
Exactly.
So we need to do something. Something needs to change. Something needs to happen.
Right,
Nobody knows what it is.
I understand that. I'm just giving my analysis of the situation in terms of I can't sit here and say, oh, get a Spurs guy and everything's going to be all right. I don't have a clue. And in fact...
There's no situation right now which anyone can say, if we get him in, everything's going to be all right. Even if you bring in Roberto De Zerbi, there's no...
Correct.
There's no, 100% narrative to say everything's going to be all right. But we do need to bring in someone, and someone needs to accept the job. So... We're in between a rock and a hard place. We just need to roll the dice and hope everything's going to be okay. That's the situation that we're in, and I don't know. I really don't know, but things have got to turn out all right, man. Otherwise, we're in a major bad situation, man. If we get relegated, this board have literal blood on there. They've got blood on their hands anyway. But if we get relegated, that is like the most unfathomable situation that this football club has ever faced. How many years on after building this stadium?
We moved in 2019.
2019, It's mad. It's mad to think after building that stadium, a year after being in, we were in the Champions League final around that time as well. Just won the Europa League. And we're talking about one of the favourites, if not the favourites, to get relegated from the Premier League. I still cannot believe the situation that we're in right now. If we would have finished 11th this season, that would have been a disaster. And we're talking about 1 point above the relegation with 7 games to go. It's just madness. Anyway, Tom Ornott is also talking about prospective other managers that can come in at the end of the season. Kind of feels like a bit of a moot point at this moment in time, but he's just talking about the obvious names, and he says that a return for Pochettino would be a popular choice among Spurs supporters. He's committed to leading the USA at the World Cup this summer. The Argentine is also high on Real Madrid's shortlist of coaches to replace Arbeloa, and he says Andoni Iraola, the Bournemouth head coach, will not make a decision about his future until the end of the season. However, Athletic Bilbao, where Andoni Iraola spent almost his whole career as a player, have emerged as a possible destination after it was confirmed that Ernesto Valverde will be leaving in the summer. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, Iraola to Bilbao? But look, I don't think there's much point talking about these kind of managers at the end of the season until we know the future of the club and until we know who's going to save us from now to the end of the season.
Agreed. We can talk about managers all we like next season, but
it's like the same as talking about transfers for the summer.
Yes. What's the point? What's the point? We don't know what division we're going to be in, so it all depends on that. It's maybe Poch won't come if we're in the Championship. Maybe he will, but maybe he won't. So I find it hard to be like, okay, get to. I think that's, to be honest, that's the problem with this club at the moment. Is that's why we've got Tudor in, and that's why we're going for another interim potentially, because we're looking at next season already, and we're looking to coast to next season, keep ourselves in the division, then completely restructure and go for Poch and go for this and that. But we're not going to get there. We're not going to reach next season at this point in the Premier League with the way things are going. And I think when we sacked Frank, that was kind of seems their idea. We're just going to sack him. We're going to install anyone just to keep us in the league, and we'll be fine. And then next season we'll deal with everything. But you got to deal with it now. It's right in your face. The problems are at your door. They're not being kicked down the line. They're not being. There's not problems for another day. It's not the problems of tomorrow. It's the problems of today that they got to deal with. And it's like they've got their head in the sand. If they're looking at our managers for next season and all this kind of stuff. I understand you have to have contingency plans and future planning and all this kind of stuff. That's fair. But you're abandoning what's happening here right now. And look at the situation we're in. I understand they're trying to deal with it. They're sacking managers here left and right and whatever. But I think when we sacked Frank, we should have been sounding out managers before Frank got sacked. And we should have someone in place permanently for when Frank went to come in right now as a successor to him, not just an interim who could just save us and hope for Poch. I think we should have been planning for the future of the club at that point rather than planning for just a manager to keep us up.
Options were limited then as well.
Well, you're a £1 billion company. Find someone. do something.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easier said than done. I really do, because who could we have got at that moment?
I'm not paid millions of pounds to figure that out.
No, you're not paid millions of pounds to figure it out, but we speak every day about football. You know a lot about football, and we can't come up with one name.
Doesn't matter. I'm not paid all this money. To find a manager to come in and manage a football club. They're paid millions and millions of pounds to find those answers and find someone. And the fact of the matter is, they not got a clue, because they're not football people. So they don't know about. Do they know about the leagues, other leagues, or whatever, or what other managers are doing? They don't know. They have no clue, and that's the biggest problem. They should have found someone to come in, who's maybe ahead of the curve footballing wise, and got a good footballing way of playing and a good personality.
When you're talking about the Lewis family, that's obviously very true. But when you're talking about people like Johan Lang and Fabio Paratici, who was at the club at the time, I mean, they surely should know about different leagues and
I think Fabio knows about Serie A. I don't know about anywhere else.
And Fabio's choice was Igor Tudor, and Vina and Lange didn't want to go in that direction in that moment in time, and obviously that led to Fabio Paratici leaving. And Fabio Paratici left, and within a few weeks they went and got Igor Tudor. So I mean, it's like the blind leading the blind at this point. You know, I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just completely ridiculous.
Agreed.
But I just don't know. I just can't see who they would have brought in on a permanent basis at the point of when they sacked Frank, or even a couple of weeks before they sacked Frank. Like, I don't know. I don't know if there's many viable options out there that they could have brought in a permanent basis.
At the end of the day, if they would have sacked Frank earlier, they could have given any new manager a bit of time. Once it's 12 games and you're in a relegation battle and the pressure's ramped up to 100, then it's very, very difficult at that point for anyone to come in and change that. But if you sack Frank maybe 19 games, or November when the Arsenal game was, or whatever, maybe that Forest game in January or December, there were times where you could have sacked him and got someone else in, and even if they had a bit of a bad run initially, you give them a bit of time to implement some sort of idea into the team. Now, you're giving manager no time. It's like, either you come in, this is what we're talking about, Tudor, come in, win immediately, or you're gone.
Look, the whole thing about this managerial search, I think where their heads were at, they were like, the whole way through this Frank tenure, they'll be like, nah, we're not getting relegated. We're not getting relegation. Didn't even come into their mind, in their thought process. And they were like, we're going to ride this season out with Thomas Frank, and at the end of the season, we're going to go for Pochettino. He's going to be there. He's going to be available. He's going to get the fans on board. He loves the club, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll sail off into the sunset with Pochettino for next season. And now, obviously, they're scared of the thought of relegation, and that's why they sacked Thomas Frank at the moment that they did. And now we're just like, Pochettino's probably not even a thought of theirs anymore, because they're like, we need to save this situation now. And now they don't know what to do.
And now it's too late to do it. That's the feeling I get. And I hope I'm wrong, but I really don't see how we get out of this. I want to be positive.
I don't think nobody can see how we get out of this, but we just have to get out of it. We just have to. Like I said yesterday, we just have to. There's no other option. We cannot get relegated. And I believe we won't. I do believe we won't. How we're going to do that, and any sort of reasoning, I don't have for you. But I just feel like we're going to get out of it somehow. I just don't know how. And that's all I've got. That's really all I've got. But I'm just praying to the high heavens.
Ben's funny feelings is what we're hanging out on.
Literally, that's it. That's it. We just have to do it. And the funny feelings don't come through very often, but this time it bloody has to. It bloody has to, because the future of this club relies on it. It really does. God. Anyway, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding the whole situation. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on, Spurs.